Hi everyone, welcome to a special Broken Meeple episode. This is the Essen Spiel preview. Now, I'm going to do something slightly different this year because in the past I've normally done like a top 10 anticipated games from Essen Spiel. But the problem is there's thousands of games and even I can find more than 10 to look forward to. Not that many more than 10, but I can still find more than 10. And other people are doing their top 10s at the moment. You know, I've looked at the Dice Towers ones and a few other people, since there's a diverse mix of games where nobody's list is going to be anywhere near the same. So I figured, well, you know what? My podcast is already going to have tips for Essen on it anyway, so we'll save that for that episode. Here, I just want to talk about games, generally games. So what I am going to do is I enlist the help of TABLETOP TOGETHER's tool, which basically has all the games updated on it from like Board Game Geek, and you just go through it and you choose whether you want to ignore, put it as maybe, like, need, want, that kind of thing, and you can get some details on it by shortcutting to BGG or just what details are there. And you can kind of quick sort, filter, and do what you need. It's a very useful tool. But I've used it this year, so I've collated what it is as of today, 13th September, and I'm just basically going to start at the bottom and work my way up and talk to you about why it's on the list and why it's at its current ranking. And then for ones that I will no doubt have missed before anybody gets on my case, we'll go to the BGG thumbs list and work away from top and go as far as I feel like, depending on how long this episode takes, and essentially, you know, talk about ones that I didn't put on my list for whatever reason. And certainly there are a few on there. So without further ado, why don't we just get started? So here we go. Boom. This is the TABLETOP TOGETHER tool, Spiel 24, so by all means, you know, if you can, use this tool, support it. It is a very useful tool. I mean, certain conventions, I don't know. I mean, I've never used it for an American convention, and it's not really that needed for something like UK Games Expo, but for Spiel, oh blimey, is it useful. Very, very useful. So this is the maybe category, and just to put a bit of context on this, right? There are 1,108 games on this tool alone. That's not even every game that's coming out. Pretty certain there's going to be more than that. And yes, there are duplicates because of German and language and English language and some expansions and stuff like that. But we are still talking over 1,000 games, probably, that are going to come out. This is kind of ridiculous at this point. Now, this, if you can see it on the screen, is what I have for my breakdown. 3 in need, 6 in want, 24 in like, 27 in maybe, 1,048 ignore. Yeah, not a lot of stuff gets my attention. And the thing is, some people will like about 300 games on here and be like, oh yeah, I can't wait to see these. I am more in the camp that, look, your blurb on here has to give me a good cover for the game. I have to see a publisher I'm familiar with, maybe a designer I'm familiar with, a category, a mechanism I'm familiar with, and you've got to get my attention. Otherwise, I'm just going to play it as it comes when I see you at Essen, because I can't, you know, focus on too many games because I'll never have time to do them. I focus on the ones that have caught my eye, and then anything else is a hidden gem after that. So, you know, a lot of these games I instantly filter out. And as I say, some of these games are just German, you know, like, so, you know, the wrong language, or, you know, expansions to games that I've not got. Some of these are actually games I've already reviewed, in which case I'm not going to put them on. I mean, I'm not sure if Wild Gardens is going to be there, you know, or games like, you know, Terminus should be there, and a few other of these games. And the River of Gold hopefully will be there, that I reviewed recently. But at the end of the day, I've reviewed them. So I'm not going to look forward to them at Essen, because I've already reviewed them. So, you know, if you're wondering why it's not on my list, check to see if I reviewed it first. But yeah, there's not that many games. So, you know, it won't take me too long, hopefully, to go through these. But this is the maybe category. So these are games where I've basically gone, you know what, maybe I'm interested, I don't know, or I'm curious more than anything else. So we got Message from the Stars. This one, and I'm just going to basically load up the Board Game Geek page, and that's as much as I can really go into it. But Message from the Stars, it's a deduction game. I like deduction games. That's kind of the main reason I'm interested. But Dice Tower reviewed this and gave it a very high rating. Like a very, very high rating. And that's as much as I really know about it, because I haven't really looked into detail about how the mechanisms work. But I like these kind of deduction games. And this one, I think, is it co-op? I can't recall. Deduction, number, science fiction, mechanism. Yeah, it's apparently a cooperative gameplay. Oh, you can do it in teams as well, but yeah, whatever. I'll deal with a cooperative. So a cooperative deduction game. I'm down for it. 45 minutes, 2 to 8 players. I suspect it's not going to work at some of the lower player counts, but or maybe too high player counts. I mean, 8 seems a little bit ridiculous, but I'm just curious. They gave it a high rating. I want to see more. Amazonia Park. Don't know much about this at all. Pretty much the cover caught my eye. I'm not usually a Reiner Knizia fan though, but Korea Board Games put out some interesting little quirky small games. You know, I mean, Asia in general, honestly. I mean, there's not really any games I can think of from the Asian market that are big games that I go mad for, but they do a good job at just making nice little quirky little games, you know. And a lot of these little card games are little easy games. Well, apparently, Knizia is paired up with Korea Board Games, which I gotta admit is kind of the weirdest combination. I would never have thought that a Korean board game company would pair up with Knizia, but hey, what do I know? But this is a tile laying game. The theme is about, you know, taking snapshots of animals. I've already got redwood down there, which is very different to this. But this one looks abstracted to a point. I mean, it looks like a tile laying game with like a public display of cards in a public area, and you're trying to line yourself up for combos. Not a lot else I can think of with this, but 30 minutes to play, 2 to 4 players. This could be a nice, easy gateway game, perhaps. It's got Chupacabras, which are a very nice, like, cutesy animal. But yeah, this one was on the maybe. It's kind of like, oh, it's got a nice picture, it's Korea Board Games, and they've paired up with a worldwide known designer. So, yeah, I figured, what the hell. Okay. Arctic from Ludinaut Games. This one, know very little, you know, animal card game, and don't worry, I'll know more about some of the games that are on my need and want list. You know, there's a reason why these are on maybe. They've just caught my curiosity. Arctic. Small little card game, you know, creating a pile of animal cards, you know, the stuff on your personal draw pile is relevant, you know, but this one, deck construction, hand management, I like these mechanics, 20 to 40 minutes, I'm in the mood for some very light games, but mainly, it's the only thing that Ludinaut is bringing out this year. Normally they have a few more, and Ludinaut do a lot of hidden gems for me. I mean, when I look behind me, Living Forest, not so much a hidden gem, but I think it's not rated as highly as I think it deserves to be. Archaeologic, half-decent deduction game, but also Precognition. Now, I know a lot of people aren't fans of Precognition. I can get why. It's a bit of a niche type of game, but I quite enjoy it. I like the quirkiness of how it works. So I'm always down to check out a new title by Ludinaut, and this seems to be their new one. It looks very pretty. Looks very simple as well, you know, so I'm down for a tricksy little card game, which, because it's from Ludinaut, will be relatively simple to play and look pretty decent, so, yeah, show me what you got. Asian Tigers, oh boy, is this a bit of a story for this one. You know, Board Game Ramblings, you know, they go in for a lot of these styles of Euros, but they mentioned about Asian Tigers, like they were looking at it or they were hopefully previewing it. Now, I didn't see the tagline, A Story of Prosperity. I just heard the term Asian Tigers and that they were saying, oh, this is like really cool. Okay, great. But I don't know what the term Asian Tigers meant at the time. I know now, but but I didn't at the time. So when I hear the name Asian Tigers and I have a picture in my head, what do you think was the first thing that came to mind? Not what this game is about, that's for dang sure. Yeah, A Story of Prosperity. In a world striving for economic success in the 60s, 4 Asian economies emerged from the pack, these so-called Asian Tigers. Oh, that's what an Asian tiger means. Not actually a tiger from Asia. Yeah, I thought this was actually going to be a cool, like, animal-themed game. It was like, oh, yeah, cool, we're going to, like, what? We're going to look after tigers or stop them going extinct or, you know, breed them, whatever, I don't know. And then I look at this cover. Man, did my opinion of this deflate when I saw, oh, this is what Asian Tigers means. So you're probably wondering, why is it even on my maybe list? Mainly because now that I've looked at it, I am just curious, because it's an economic game. Not usually into these, but Asian-themed economic game. Be different from the typical, like, you know, 19th century industry rubbish that we get. But also, I just kind of have to see what it's like, because there are people I know that are talking, you know, good things about it. Not one of them mentions the fact that this thing looks like an absolute train wreck in terms of, you know, its looks. I mean, the aesthetics of this are bland and boring as you can get, but I think it's a relatively new publisher, so, you know, can't be too hard on them for that. But I'm just curious with this one, you know. I mean, Pythagoras have also done some other stuff, though. I mean, I haven't played a lot of their games, but they did do one called Cafe a little while ago, this little sort of small card game. And I remember playing that, I might have even reviewed it, and that was a nice little quirky game. So it's like, okay, fine, I'm down for this. 120 minutes, so not too long, you know, 2 hours for an economic game. But yeah, it's just caught by, yeah, funny enough, they've done a review of it, although, is it actually a review or a preview at this point? Hard to tell. But, yeah, this one, I mean, Literally mainly because I set myself up for like a crazy disappointment at first. Now I'm suddenly curious to go, you know what? Maybe this could be an absolute gem of a game or something. I don't know, but I just found it amusing that I thought it was actually about Asian tigers, literally, and not about an economic game. So this is why it's important to check out the cover of a game rather than just the title before you get any thoughts in your head. Alrighty, Atlantis Exodus. This one. Oh, yep, we got this one from DLP. So I don't know very much about this. In fact, nobody knows much about this because this is all that's on the screen here. But the premise of it sounded interesting. So you are trying to rescue as many citizens as possible before the impending downfall. Thanks to an innovative rotation mechanism, players have to face constantly changing conditions and keep adjusting their own strategy to the different action possibilities, blah, 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 blah. I'm down for a rondel game where the board state changes over time and it forces you to sort of change what you're up to, but this is literally all we've really got. We've got an English rulebook, but I don't like to read rulebooks ahead of time. You know, just reading the rulebook does not really tell me if I'm going to like the game or not. Plus, I got enough rulebooks to read. I got enough stuff to do as a tax accountant. I ain't got time to read the rulebooks for everything that I'm going to preview. So I'm just curious with this one, but other than that, don't know much else. Alright, Beyond the Horizon. Why is this on my thing? I think literally I only put this on my list because it had the words civilization in it. And I'm always down for something that is relatively civilization themed, particularly if it involves building up a civilization. Now, I don't know if this is going to be anywhere close to something like that, but and Cranio Creations does kind of vary as to whether they do anything, that I tend to like. But we've got, building up a map of areas. We've got a technology tree by the looks of it. It looks fairly streamlined-ish, nothing too complicated, which is good, not like a 3-hour game or anything like that, although it does say 90 to 120, so we'll see. But I'm curious. I mean, what have you got there? So you try to explore, expand, develop, and production, research, technological, so all the hallmarks of a typical Civ game. Well, if they can come up with a half-decent Civ game that's thematic and not just a complete, abstracted thing, then fair play, I'm down. Okay, what else we got now? Bus and Stop. Yeah, well, Bus and Stop is purely because it's Sashi and Sashi. Again, it looks like a quirky little card game, picking up and dropping off passengers, obviously doing little tricksy things with cards, pick up and deliver, even though it's a card game as opposed to an actual map game. 15 minutes, mainly it's on my list because it's Sashi and Sashi. They tend to put out good stuff, and I still haven't played the one they did last year, which was the boat one. The one where you were putting people on a cruise ship or something. I've heard good things, but it cost a lot of money. Or did it actually? Maybe I just didn't feel like paying. Perhaps I was hoping it was just a small card game and it was actually a full-fledged board game, and I thought, I'm not sure I want to pay this much money for it. I'd rather try before I buy. Nobody has it, so maybe I'll grab a copy while I'm at Essen, and actually try it. But how expensive can this be? A 15-minute little card game can't be that pricey. I mean, look, the box is minuscule. This will be cheap as chips, hopefully. Although it is Japanese, which does tend to mean they tend to be a bit more expensive. Castle Combo. I'm not going to talk about this one right now because Catch-Up Games have given me this one to review, along with Temple Code, which is another one of their little ones. So I'm going to hold off this one purely because, I don't want to spoil too much for the review, but let's just say it's going to be good. And I'll explain more in the review. Okay, so by all means check this one out, but don't worry, you're going to get a speed review for this some point in the next week, I suspect. So just be patient on that one. Civolution. Why the hell is this on your list, Luke? Because again, I'm curious. I'm not a fan of Stefan Feld. Okay, Stefan Feld games really just don't do it to me. But Paul Grogan will not shut up about this game. Bless his heart. He will not shut up about this. This is one of his games that I think is going to be like his top of the year or something like that. But then he is much more Stefan Feld fan than I am by miles. So yeah, he's and I suspect Dan from Chairman of the Board is going to go ape over this as well because he's a massive dry Euro Stefan fan as well. But this one has caught my eye because Civilization. I know Stefan Feld doesn't really keep the theme at all in any of his games, so I'm not expecting this one to either, but I'm just curious. I mean, it looks like there's a lot going on here, and it looks like there's some like technology and, you know, cool things you could do. It doesn't look quite as ridiculously dry and point salady as, say, Marrakesh, which literally the theme makes nothing, and it's like random chucking things in a tower mechanisms and crisscross lines on a staircase for whatever. It's like that thing is just an abstracted mess. This one at least looks like it's got an arc to it. And I'm just curious, maybe this could be really cool, because this looks like something that is way out of Stefan Feld's comfort zone. And I must admit, when he does do something that's generally outside of his comfort zone, I tend to like them more. I used to like Amerigo, which is probably more in his comfort zone, but that was a long time ago. Would still play it now. But Kokopelli was a card game done by Stefan Feld. I thought, actually, this is quite a quirky card game. I didn't believe he'd done it, though. I thought it was a Rainer Knizia game when it was first showed to me. It doesn't feel like a Stefan Feld game at all. Maybe this one doesn't feel like a Stefan Feld game. And if that's the case, I might actually like it more. But certainly, I'm not going to go out of my way for this one if it costs an absolute bomb. But I would certainly like to play it. So if there is a chance for me to play it at Essen, I will. I will give it a shot. Try any game once. You know, you gotta be, fair to these things. But it's Civilization themed. I mean, if this wasn't anything to do with Civilization, I probably wouldn't have cared. But you put that word at front of a game, and I'm like, I do like me a good Civ game, and we don't get a lot of good Civ games. So I'm down for more Civ games. As much as I like Civ A New Dawn, there's not that many other Civ games in my collection, because there just really isn't that. I mean, there may be good ones out there, but they tend to take so much time. I would like to play Europa Universalis or whatever, the one that's based on the Paradox game or whatever it is. But do you think I'm going to buy that game and try and learn how to set that up and play it in a day? Yes, sod off. That's not happening. But I would certainly like to play it, if somebody else was going to teach me, that is. Nice little drink. Right. Moving on. But if you want to find out more about this game, then check out Paul Grogan on the Gaming Rules channel, because I'm pretty sure he's done a lot of stuff on this already. Righty. Colosseum. Not really going to look much into this. I used to own Colosseum. This is the old Wolfgang Kramer game. It's published by Fantasia Games, so they tend to do very good production. The previous one by Tasty Minstrel Game was a bit garish. Not a huge fan of it. In fact, I think I've sold it since. I don't own it anymore. But I like the game. It was a bit of quirky fun if you roleplay it a bit. But my problem with it is this whole thing that you roll and move for these guys. So there's a lot of luck in it. Despite the fact that you have to look at this massive sheet full of different shows you can put on. And somehow plot your route from start to finish. And it's like, that's already a burden on your brain when you do this for... for Tricarion. But Tricarion's a 3-hour, Mind Clash game. I expect that from that. Not for something that was meant to be a 60 to 90 minute, fun little game or something. So, no idea. But Ian O'Toole and the Miko art, so that's a good start. You know, have good graphic design, plus good artwork. The game itself was fun, but have they streamlined it? Have they made it more accessible? Have they improved on it? We shall see. So I'm just curious about this one. Alright, Gnome Hollow. I honestly know nothing about this. The only reason this is on the list is because I've heard people talk about it. And that's literally about it. I mean, honestly, if it hadn't been talked about lately, I probably wouldn't have even looked at it. But I like tile placement games. The theme sounds a little quirky. Small... I wish I could tell you more, really. In fact, I don't even know why this is on my maybe list. I think it's just, like I say, I've heard good things. 45 to 60 minutes, it's got the right time frame, it's got the right, simplicity weight level. So I am curious. This could be good fun. I like the look of this hex board and what you're doing on your boards and stuff. So this could be really cool, but I really know nothing about it. I mean, this might have been one of the last ones I shoved on my list. Horror on the Orient Express. Don't know a lot about this one, but I've been approached to possibly look into it from a preview. Well, I don't want to do a preview, but maybe from a review perspective in the long run. But this is apparently based on a Call of Cthulhu style horror setting and that, so I'm down for it. But will I like it? No idea. I mean, this one's a cooperative game, so I do like cooperative games. Hunt the cultists, stop them performing a ritual. Each of you controls a character who can develop new skills, talk to passengers, discover clues. You may even learn a spell or two. So, I mean, it sounds like a cool thematic co-op game. Will it be any good? No idea. I mean, I don't know a huge amount of what Chaosium doesn't tend to do the games that I tend to go mad for, or more to the point that they release very specialized games that aren't typically ones that I play. You know, I mean, I don't know what Mythos is or Khan of Khans, no Mad Gods. I mean, they've released a lot of games in old times, and now all of a sudden we've got this new one, so no idea what to make of this one, really. Okie doke. Humanity. Well, let's try and squeeze through a few of these. Humanity. City building. I do like a good city building game. And that's kind of all I really know. In fact, I know on it. This is language German. I've got the wrong one. I've got, I know there's an English one, I'm sure, but I seem to have put the German one on there. But honestly, I don't get much from this cover. It's got the word city building in it, which is something that does catch my eye. Mainly, though, this is on the list because it's published by Bombix. Bombix have made some very cool games for me, not in the least Abyss and everything Abyss related, still remains one of my favorite games to date. So that alone makes me just want to check this one out. That does look a bit like a bit of a busy board though, and it doesn't look as big of a looker as other games that they've done. But I think literally this is just going on site publisher pedigree there. 2.64 weight, 90 minutes, 2 to 4 players. Doesn't look too, difficult. City building with a bit of tech-treeness. I'm interested, but other than that, my knowledge is quite limited, so I'm pretty much just going on publisher pedigree with this one. Let's see. Little Alchemist, check game editions. Now, Alchemist is a game I like, but man, is it confusing and fiddly and a little bit too elongated and long. So this one is meant to be a more accessible one. It's apparently not meant to be for kids, it's meant to be more for families, and so I don't know if this is one I'll be looking at personally because I don't play games in a family setting. I have friends who do, but I can't really, give it to them and then ask them to give me their views and then do a video based on that. But this is supposed to be a new way of getting into Alchemist in a much simpler fashion. You still use the app, you're still doing the whole deduction thing of making potions, but it gets taught to you in little modules, that you can play, so you don't have to play like the whole lot at once. You can kind of get into it over time. And I mean, Alchemist is a solid game. It just needed to be streamlined a bit. This one is probably a little bit below what I want for it, but if it means that families can get into the game, I'm down to see what it's like. And if maybe I'm underestimating what it's possible. I know I kind of need to see it like played out. But what does put me off it is this whole thing of over the course of 7 chapters unlock over multiple playthroughs. It's like, well, I haven't got time to play your game 7 times before I can get into the full swing of it. So it is kind of like, I don't know. But, I'm curious to see how this one does overall. Alright, Mesos. Why is that on my list? I don't remember anything about this one. Mesos? Mesos, I guess mainly just because the artwork, actually. The artwork did sort of catch my eye, because, I mean, Cranio Creations doesn't tend to make very good-looking games. Well, this one actually does have a very unique style of artwork that looks pretty cool. And again, looks, I think, possibly because it's a short card game. I mean, I'm into short, quirky little card games that are easy to get to the table, as much as I like... Board Game Ramblings have done something on it funny. Actually, to be fair, it's Cranio Creations, pretty much... Cranio Creations, Delicious Games, and Chill Fox / the people who did Revive. Yeah, I forget the name off the top of my head, but basically the people who did Revive, Cranio and that, yeah, they do get on quite well. So yeah, I'm not surprised that they've got all their games. But I don't know if this is any good, frankly. Although, to be fair, why is it on my list? Because it's got Simone Luciani's name on it. Very rarely, well, actually, no, never do I get excited about a game by Luciani. You know what? I'm actually going to put this on ignore for now. I'm not, and possibly, no, all of these I'm still kind of interested in. But yeah, I don't see that I'm that. I'll try it if I see it, but no, everything about, yeah, why did I put that on my list? Right, Minos, Dawn of the Bronze Age. So this one's on maybe. This is for, board and dice. Now, why is it on maybe and not any higher? Well, firstly, the title doesn't exactly draw me in, does it? Minos, Dawn of the Bronze Age. All these tagline titles do put me off when, your title isn't enough to tell me what it is. I have to have some rich, stupid little tag name by it. But it's also telling me that this is basically going to be a pretty themeless Euro game of mechanics, which I'm kind of getting bored with at the moment. Now, what is appealing to this one, though, is the fact that for Board and Dice, this is actually a pretty looking game. Yeah, so it certainly does have the looks behind it. I can't see all of the board, annoyingly, but it's got the thing from Coinbrer where your dice go in these little holders, so you draft, like, you take specific dice of different colors and values, put them in your thing to own them, and then you can level up stuff on your board, get more powerful at stuff. Looks to be maybe a little bit simpler than some of their other fair. Well, actually, I say simpler. 90 to 2.5 hours. Okay, so maybe that's a lie. 3.56. All right, maybe this is heavier than I'm giving it credit for. But Stan Kudonski does do some half-decent stuff. So, in fact, like, I mean, looking at this list here, now, Endless Winter, very cool game, just needs a house rule or two. Lockup was fine, Dice Hospital was fine. Old West Empresario is actually an underrated title by Stan. If you get a chance to try that one, it is Tasty Minstrel, so you might have to find a second-hand copy or something. But if you do get a chance to try Old West Empresario, then I do recommend it. It's quite a cool game, still on my shelf. But Minos, yeah, it's Board and Dice, so I'm always curious to try their stuff. And also, I'm wondering if they've turned over a new leaf lately, because I enjoyed Windmill Valley, which came out earlier this year, and that was a very pretty-looking game. Fairly streamlined rules, fairly easy Euro, dry, but, still a decent Euro. And if this is continuing along that trend of good-looking, relatively streamlined, for the weight level, that is, Euros that are less like the T games we used to get, or stuff like Origins and, things like that, and more kind of different. But it is on maybe, though, because the title and, what this thing is, does make me think it's maybe going back to what they used to do, but there's enough about here which I'm like, I'm curious. Nocturne, not so much that one. I don't know, why is this one on there? There's some other stuff by Alderac that I'm certainly keen on. Illustrated by Beth Sobel, so it's a nice looking game. Puzzly spatial building game. I do like spatial awareness games. I do seem to be fairly good at those. I think maybe just because it kind of looked quite nice and appealing. Alderac do some very nice simplistic, like, they tend to put out some good stuff from, 30 to 45 minutes range. And also, as much as I say Alderac, it's not just Alderac, it's actually probably primarily flat-out games. Flat-out games, as in Cascadia. Yeah, flat-out games are on a bit of a roll at the moment, so, if we've got another collaboration between Alderac and Flat-Out Games, I certainly would like to know a little bit more about this one, as much as it looks like an abstract game with a dressed-up theme, but why not? Right. Oh, God, yeah, why are these... All right. I gotta get through these quite quick, so I'm gonna do it a bit quicker. Actually, I'm gonna ignore that. I'm not really that desperate for that. Now, Race Safar is on my maybe list purely because of curiosity more than anything else, because this is Delicious Games and Vladimir Suhi. Now, Vladimir Suhi is very hit and miss with me in terms of games I like and dislike. I mean, they did collaborate on Underwater Cities, which is fantastic, and then Czech Game Editions, and Vladimir had Pulsar 2849. Love it as well. But I have seen, funny enough, them, because Delicious Games always are willing... Well, they've never said a bad word about any Delicious Games, so I'm pretty sure that's helping. But the thing that I'm curious about with this one is, wow, does that not look like the most boring, blandest Euro you've ever seen? It really does. Nothing about that board looks appealing. Those map tiles, they look boring. Your player board looks boring. That board looks like something out of 1993 or something. Like, that kind of reminds me of the original brass board. You remember what that looked like before Roxley took control of it? This looks like a terrible aesthetically designed game. But I can tell that people are going to go monkeys for it because it's Vladimir Suhi. So naturally everybody wants to know what his next game's like. But his last couple of games have not impressed me. I was not impressed with Evacuation. Check out my review for that. What else? What was it called? The one about the plague, Messina or something like that. That was meh. And like I say, Vladimir has done better stuff. But I think I probably, at the reasonably about the same sort of time, I got into Pulsar and Underwater Cities and thought, oh yeah, these are fantastic. And then Praga was okay. Woodcraft had problems. It was far too tight. I mean, if you got bad luck from the draw or something, you were basically screwed because there wasn't enough rounds to recover. There's a lot of problems with some of these games. But this is on my maybe list because I would happily try it, only just to see if the gameplay is as boring as this looks. I mean, seriously. Could there be a hidden gem under here? Could this be like a fantastic game that just looks like dirge? I don't know. But you know, I'm curious and would like to at least try it, but I'm not really going to go out of my way to hunt this down. Rock Hard by Devere. Now, Devere games, again, very hit and miss as to what I tend to play, but people won't shut up about this one lately because they keep saying that this is, like, wonderfully thematic about being an up-and-coming musician and, you know, rehearsing, playing gigs, and writing songs. Now, I'm not desperate for this type of theme, but apparently this is designed by somebody who actually is a designer. Yeah, she was the bass player for something called Famous 5 version of a female rock band called The Runaways. I don't know much about The Runaways. In fact, I think somebody showed me one of their songs, which I didn't like. Not quite sure which song in particular it was, but Cherry Bomb. Oh god, yeah, Cherry Bomb. I hate Cherry Bomb. So yeah, not a fan of the music. But Devere games don't really do thematic games. In fact, I can't think of any of their games that have been thematic. And everyone is crying out that this is incredibly thematic. So I'm curious, have they managed it? Have they finally understood the concept of theme and given us a good thematic game? So I want to try it to see if that's true. Alright, Salt Fueled, Porter Games, that's who I was trying to think of earlier, the ones who did Revive. This one is barely making the list because I'm not that desperate for Salt Fueled. I mean, it looks cool from the pictures, but then I found, and I think it was on my list because it looked good from the imagery. Like, I was like, oh, that's a cool looking board, you know, a mid-weight Euro, 45 to 90 minutes, you know, quite cool, you know, and dice drafting and stuff like that. That all sounded good. The problem is, I then found out it was a re-implementation of Santa Maria. Santa Maria is an okay game. Super dry, though, and it got boring after a few plays. If this is not, this could improve on the formula and make it a lot better, which is why I'm curious. But Santa Maria got boring after a few plays, and, you know, I don't know if this is just going to have the same problem. And I think the last couple of things that a Porter have done I haven't gone mad for, to my knowledge. I mean, I wasn't the biggest fan. I mean, I didn't mind Revive. I think I gave it a 6 out of 10 and got my absolute, like, face ripped off for it, but, you know, from the fanboys. But honestly, Revive is above average for me. I just don't think it's any better than that. But yes, if this improves on the Santa Maria formula and gives a better game, then I'm all down to try it. But yeah, it's not really sort of grabbing my attention as much as it could, but it's on my maybe list. So if I get a chance, I'll try it. Let's see, Snowcrest. Was that just because it was animal themed? I don't really know anything about this one. Did I literally just put it on the list because it said the word animals in it? Possibly because it's also Grail Games, though. Grail Games have done some hidden gems in the past. Not for... In fact, was it... No, that wasn't Space... No, that was Space Cowboys that did Elysium. What else has Grail Games done? I'll have a look in a minute, but... You know, this one looked interesting from the imagery. It looked quite pretty, but I don't know if this will be a solid game or not. I'm literally just... I think I must have put it on just because it had the word Grail Games in it and it was animals themed. But, you know, Yellow and Yanked, and I've heard good things about Rail Riders, and, I could have sworn that they'd made something that I really, really liked. Did they do Deus? Maybe Deus is the one I'm thinking of, or is that not? Saying that, I don't think Grail Games is Deus, is it? No, it's not. No, I'm thinking of someone else. Maybe I'll take that one off. Okay, sorry. Spectacular. Chill Fox games. I actually tend to prefer the stuff that Chill Fox does as opposed to a Porter. They did that, what was it called? Something Together, the hippie festival one or whatever it was called. That one was actually quite a cool little game. It had some issues, but overall I found it quite decent. So I'm down to check this one, partially because that cover looks gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. But as I think just because Chill Fox tends to put out some better games, and it is only 20 to 30 minutes, it uses dice and tiles, I'm down to see what it's like. Although what has put me off recently is that I think the Dice Tower reviewed this, and all of them gave it fairly mediocre ratings. They didn't say it was bad, but they didn't say it was overly great either, so... is there a problem with it? I'd have to look at it in more detail. But it's down on my maybe list. You know, I'll give it a shot. Right, I'm sorry that we've spent so long on just the maybes. This is going to be a long video, so maybe I might split this into multiple videos. One for the maybes, one for these ones, and one for others. Maybe that's a better one, we'll see. Right, Tea Garden. Tea Garden, this one, again, I don't know a lot about the mechanics, but economic farming game. I am down for more farming related games, but this one is a looker. Look at that. It's a pretty looking game, and I'm down for these sort of like, tea related or Asian farming games. They make nice themes for me. So it's very pretty. Looks to be relatively heavy-ish in its sign. I mean, 90 to 120 minutes. So this is not going to be just some, easy-going game. But it's got some nice, mechanisms featured in there. I mean, deck bag and pool building, resource growth, economic farming game, deck building and worker placement. So it's going to be one of those type of combinations of games. Again, I like that combination of games. It works for things like Lost Ruins of Arnak and stuff like that. But yeah, you play with tea leaves, green or black. The value decreases each round for green, value of the black increases. So that's interesting, a fluctuating resource system. And Thomas Hoyek as the designer, I have no idea if I spelled that, pronounced that correctly, a Czech designer, is also doing another game that has caught my attention. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So yeah, as an up-and-coming designer, given that there's another game that has caught my interest from him, naturally I wanted to look at his other designs as well. I'm not sure about Galileo Galilei though. That one hasn't caught my eye as much, but I would still give it a shot. All right, Lord of the Rings Duel. I mean, Lord of the Rings. The Seven Wonders Duel is already a fantastic two-player game. I have played this version at the Games Expo. If you like one, you'll like the other. I think I prefer to have the sort of more simplistic, streamlined version of like Seven Wonders Duel, as opposed to the Lord of the Rings version. I think this whole area control thing is just a bit but otherwise it's essentially the same game. So if you like one, you'll like the other. Just pick and choose your poison, really. But I put those on a maybe, just so I could look at it again. Tree Society, probably not on that one, and probably not on the War of the Ring, the card game expansion either, because I think I've got enough content for it, and even then, I never get it to the table, so I don't know if I need another expansion for it. I need to really see if I'm going to still keep that game or not. That was my maybe list, so the ones that I'm kind of like, I'm curious, we'll see about that in that case, but we will then go on to my likes, my wants, and my needs in the next video, and then if I've got time after that, we'll go into the sort of like the thumbs view and that. But I think this is already a 40-minute video. I don't want this to be a hour and a half video, so I'd like to sort of break this one up. So thanks for watching. Hope you liked it. By all means, thumb it up. Sorry that there's not a ton of detail about some of these games, but they are on my maybe list for a reason. But if you want to find out about my ones that I'm more excited for, then by all means, check out the next video in the series. So take care. Remember, it's only a game, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.